So I'm going through cleaning my shed, reorganizing everything, cleaning everything up, and getting ready to start making some more homemade diesel fuel. So I know it's been 3 years. Everything is cluttered up in my shed for a long time. But some questions people ask all the time is like how I mix it and filter it and process it. I'm going to go through and show everybody how I make it again. I haven't made any new videos in like 3 years. I've only posted like my old videos. So I got better systems now. I want to get set up and start running motor oil, and I want to show you my updated improvements I have done over the years. Now to explain in detail what's going on here. This tote is raw motor oil I get from local garages. It's been sitting in here for about 2 weeks. That allows the water and dirt and everything to settle to the bottom of the tote. And this hose with a piece of metal on the end is about 5 inches off the bottom of the tote. I usually put the battery charger on 1.5 amps at 6 volts so this pump runs nice and slow, and then I can set the timer for how long I want it to run. So where I left off was using the battery charger to run my pump with a timer, pumping the motor oil up into this barrel with a bed sheet in it. So I'll reset the timer. This is just one layer of bed sheet, and I used a ratchet strap to hold it off the bottom so it's just supported in this little oil drum. So I just pump the oil into it nice and slow, and like gravity, pull the motor oil down through the bed sheet and out through the bottom. As this bed sheet gets full of crap, it's going to get higher up on the bed sheet. Once it gets about halfway, stop running oil and use a wet dry vac. You can clean out the bed sheet and run some more. Comes out the bottom of the barrel into this tote. The common question I get all the time, what do I use for filters? This is it. This is the only filtration I do for the whole process, is running it through this bed sheet, because letting it settle has already filtered most of the dirt and water crap in the bottom of this tote. This bed sheet catches anything that's floating in this motor oil that is the same density. So that's what this is going to catch. And then it's going to sit in here and let it sit for 2 weeks and let it settle out again. So I'm going to keep resetting this timer until this tote is all empty and this is full. And I got to clean up and reorganize these totes here. So as you can see, we pumped all that raw motor oil up through that bed sheet and drained down under gravity down into that 330-gallon tote. And you can kind of see all the crap that the bed sheet has caught. So the next thing we're going to do is use a wet dry vac to clean out what's left in that bed sheet. Take the funnel off. We're going to take what's left of this sludge on the bottom of this tote and vacuum that out. And I'm also going to finish cleaning the top of this tote off and also vacuum this tote out. And I'm going to use my big pump with a 20-foot hose to pump this old stale gas into this mixing tote and pump the oil from that first filtered stage motor oil into this tote. So I just use an old wet dry vac, and if you're wondering what the pants are for, as you're vacuuming the sludge on the bottom of the totes, little droplets of oil comes out the back of this wet dry vac. And if you don't have like a rag covering it, it will splatter on your walls. So the pair of pants kind of catch all the little droplets that come out, and also anything that blows to the ground that goes on those pair of pants. But see, that's when you do a lot of vacuuming out of these totes. So to vacuum all the sludge from like the bottom of that tote, that tote, that tote, and that tote, that's what it does. They do make a screen that threads onto these to catch those little droplets, but I don't have one, and so I kind of improvise with some redneck technology. What also works really good is just taking a sock and zip tying it on there. That works also really well. So let's get this bed sheet cleaned out. And that's about it. Now you don't have to get it perfect because it's just going to get dirty again. You don't have to replace the bed sheet every time. Now it's time to grab the extension and start cleaning up this mixing tote. I pumped some out of it and my vacuum is full. And what I do, instead of taking the lid off, I put an empty bucket in front of it and just dump it out. Just like this. And what I do with the sludge, I pour it into an empty tote so I can refine more fuel out of it. Once this tote is full of all that excess fuel, I'm going to pump off only the top half, all that clean fuel, after all the dirt and crap settles to the bottom. And all that dirt and crap that settled to the bottom of this tote, the last stage, I'll either take it to a recycling center or I'll drain it out. I'll use it to burn the brush and old logs. And when that fire is hot enough, it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of water in it, it just burns it all up. This way I have very little waste at all after everything is said and done. Okay, all the vacuuming is done now. I'll be honest, that's pretty much the hardest and messiest part of making diesel fuel. So I wiped down the vacuum cleaner, I put on a pair of pants. Pants I had, I put in a bucket to get rid of later, and I used them to wipe the floor. Before I leave, I'm going to spread some kitty litter to make sure everything is cleaned up good. So now I'm going to get ready to take this empty tote of raw motor oil out and use my machine to bring a full one in. So this empty tote of used motor oil I got from garages, I'm going to use my pallet jack to get it closer so I can reach it with my machine to get the empty tote out and bring another tote of used motor oil into my shed. Now I got another tote of raw motor oil from local garages in here. I'm going to get ready to mix that motor oil with gasoline in this tote. So again, we're going to take this little pump with a little weight on it. Going to put all the way to the bottom of the tote and then pick it up about 2 to 3 inches off the bottom. So that's ready to start pumping oil. We're just going to temporarily move this drum out of the way. Okay, make sure the doors are open on the shed. Turn my exhaust fan on. Now I'm going to pump about 30 gallons of stale gas into my mixing tote with my big pump. There she goes. And I have my exhaust fan going, doors open, and my garage doors open. The electric pump is outside. Okay, this one is done. Now the next one. Hose is in, bungee strap is hooked up. Plug the pump back in, and just wait a little bit. Now both totes have 30 gallons. With stale gasoline, now it's time to fill them up to 275 gallons of motor oil. I only have enough to do the one tote right now, so I'll just put a lid on this one until I'm ready with more oil to mix with it. Now I brought my big pump inside, set up top of that filtered motor oil, put the pickup hose down in, and now we're going to start pumping this filtered motor oil in with the gasoline and mix it. Put the lid on this one and continue to wait for it to fill up. Okay, I stopped at 250 gallons. Now I'm going to use my drill to mix this up. I'm going to check the viscosity with my dipper here and see if I need to add more gas or oil to the mix. If it drains too fast out of that paint can, it needs more oil. If it drains too slow, it needs more gas. Now my typical mixtures. The summer mix for Stinky Pete is between 25 to 30 gallons. My winter mix is between 50 to 60 gallons of gasoline to oil. My bulldozer and diesel tractor typically get about 80 to 100 gallons of gasoline to oil mix. And the furnace gets between 125 to 150 gallons of gas to oil mix. The mixture depends on if you have mostly transmission fluid or gear oil, so you might have to add more or less gasoline to get the right viscosity you need. So let's mix this up. Make sure you mix it up real good. Now I check it with my dipper here, and I check the viscosity right here. Viscosity was good, so I'm going to fill this up the rest of the way with motor oil. Mix it a little bit more. Now just put the lid on it and let it sit for at least 2 weeks to let all that dirt and water, anything that might still be in there, to settle to the bottom. I'm going to pump the rest of that filtered motor oil in the other mixing tote. So I'm all done pumping that motor oil through the bed sheet into that tote. I'm going to use my big pump to pump some of that used motor oil and finish filling this up with used motor oil. I already had some stale gas and motor oil in it. So I moved my bed sheet over, I moved the screen over, stuck the hose down inside. Now we are pumping. Yeah, look at that black gold. Or a friend of mine would call it, I cannot believe it's not diesel. This batch I mixed last week needs to sit for 1 more week before I start using it. This will have to sit for at least 2 weeks. But for my normal everyday driving, these 2 totes of mixed fuel will last me almost 2 years in Stinky Pete and my 2 machines. Now, if I wanted to mix up batches for heating oil, these 2 batches will heat the whole house all winter long. And if I really wanted to, I can mix up, I think it's like 3 batches, and I can run it in my generator and power the whole house for about like $100 a year. But the problem is, what kills the cost is replacing the generator after like 10 years. So that's like a $3,000 expense, so it's like $300 a year for just the cost to replace the generator if I did it that way. Now it's time to mix it. Make sure you mix it real good. I checked the viscosity, I put the lid back on. I moved everything off this tote over. Now I'm going to take this tote out of here and bring another full one in. And now when those batches of fuel are done and all settled out, what you can do is pump them into nice clean storage totes. And you can just keep mixing more batches if you want. I'm not going to have to make any more for quite a while, so this will probably be my last video for a couple months.